Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of GH Reflections. Again, my name is Dr. Godfrey Asante. I am an assistant professor of communication, difference, and disparities at San Diego State University. This is the second episode of a two-part series on gender and sexuality in Ghana. And today we will discuss the politics of LGBT rights. And as most of you know, it's become a very contentious issue right now in Ghana. Of course, it has always been a very contentious issue. As usual, I do have my usual panelists, Dr. Amanda Odioy from UCC. I do have Dr. Erica Curry from Towson University. And we do have two additional panelists who should be joining us pretty soon. One of them will be joining us pretty soon, but I do have Robert. So if you do want to introduce yourself quickly, Robert, to our lovely audience. Oh, you're muted, Robert, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello. My name is Robert Akoto-Amoafo. I'm currently at the University of Victoria in South Africa. I used to work as a country director for Amnesty International Ghana, and I am a certified trainer and organizational personal development coach, and currently am doing an MPhil in human rights and democratization at the University of Victoria. And so that is me, yes.
Thank you so much. We should be expecting Angel Maxine, the first transgender musician in Ghana. I think she's having some issues with the internet. So once she joins us, once that is fixed, we will immediately add her to the conversation. Before we launch onto the questions for the day, again, if you have any questions or comments, please do post it on our Facebook. We would definitely respond to your questions. We would try as much as possible to answer everybody's questions. Also, we do highlight your comments as well, and we love to hear them. So please, make those comments and also pose those questions so we can answer them. So before we launch into the questions, the first question that we want to talk about is, what constitutes LGBTQI plus identities? So I will sort of set the ball rolling by asking Robert to start. And if you decide to pick one of the identities, that's fine. Or you can you can go along and talk about it all.
Okay. So yes, one thing I didn't mention was my expertise in LGBT situations in Ghana. One of the key aspects when it comes to the research and discussion of LGBT in Ghana. So of course we start with the L, which is sexual relation, feeling, spiritual connection, and sexual attraction. So it's a whole thing altogether between two females or two women. So that is for the L, the lesbian. Then we go to the gay, which is for the males, but also gay is it's a general term. It could be used also for women as well. So initially, so as it is growing, it's becoming more male dominated. But initially, it was always for everybody. It will be you can be have a gay woman and a gay man, but at the end of the day, what we are now focusing on is using the G for gay men. Bisexual, of course, is someone who has sexual attraction, sexual, spiritual, emotional, and psychological attraction to both male and female. So, like always, people don't understand that it is not only sexual, but it's like all the other transgender. I think Maxine has joined us now, so maybe I'll leave that one for her. Queer is an umbrella term for all these people that we are talking about. So when we say somebody is queer, the person may not want to be labeled any lesbian, gay, bisexual, or anything, but they fall under a general umbrella. People always ask, why are we using a word that seems to be old, and in the olden days it was negative? So for instance, queer in the olden days, it could mean something that is negative and is not good. But we have there's in English because something amelioration. It means it has grown to become positive over the period, and therefore the LGBT community has taken it up. It was used negatively against the LGBT community. Now they've taken it up and they are ameliorating it. They are making it sound better and become a better umbrella term for everybody. We have asexual or allies. There's a could be asexuals or allies. Allies are people who are not either L or B or T or G or queer or anything, or in part of the list that we have. They don't have same-sex relations. They are heterosexual people, but are friends to the community. They support the community. They understand the community. They work for the community. They work for the LGBT community in the work that we do. Intersex, I mean, the negative word that we used to use for intersex is hermaphrodite, or somebody who has sexual organ when they are born. But the scientific explanation is that it's not only sexual organ, or it's further to, it could be in hormonal, and it could be mental, and so being intersex is not only physical, it can be chemical as well as internal feeling as well. So I'll leave, like I said, I'll leave the T for Magdalene so that she can do justice to it. So I think we're talking about what is when we talk about transgender.
I can hardly hear.
Can you hear me, Angel?
Can you hear me?
I can hardly hear you. The voice is so low. The voices are very low. I don't know why.
We can hear you really well.
We can hear you really well.
I don't know why I can't. Or maybe I should use an earpiece.
Possibly, yes.
You think so?
Possibly, yes.
Okay, let me try.
Yes.
So whilst Maxine is go ahead and try so that she can add to it, or she can correct me if I go wrong. Which the trans person is a person, you know, when a person is born, the doctors decide, looking at their sexual organ, whether they are male or female. And then also we have gender, which is, of course, the social constructs that we have for whether a person should be seen as a man or a woman. Now, when a person is born, the sexual organ is seen, and the person is given, and is giving whether they will be given, if it's a male sexual organ, it means there are certain roles that will be assigned to that sexual organ that is hanging on the person. If it is a female, whatever sexual organ is having, there are certain social constructs that will be given to that person. Now, there are people who are born with male sexual organs that do not ascribe to those things. And then also internally, spiritually, emotionally, every way, they don't feel that that sexual organ belongs to them. And those things that are ascribed to specific sexual organs do not belong to them. And therefore, they do not ascribe to those things that are said. So somebody can be bored and be said, "Oh, this is supposed to be a man," but the person would say, "No, I am not a man. You can't tell me I'm a man because I have a male sexual organ." But I am a woman. I feel I'm a woman. Spiritually, I'm a woman. Emotionally, socially, every way, I am a woman, and I want to be seen as a woman. I want to be treated as a woman, and a person. So, and then also another key thing that we must understand. It doesn't take the change of a person totally for the person to be identified as a trans person. So a person may be walking around still with a beard like mine, but would say that I am female and people should call me a certain name. And this has come about because, as you may know, in many African countries, apart from, I know, as far as I'm concerned, in South Africa, where people are given this opportunity to have all the changes that they need, many people do not have that opportunity to have those changes. And therefore, if a person says, I am transgender, you don't say, why are you not wearing wig? Why have you not changed your sexual organ? Why are you not having breast? Or if it is a person who was ascribed a female as a woman, the person, why is the person not cutting off their breast and the person not wearing male clothes? Social issues block people from expressing their gender that they want to identify themselves by. And therefore, if a person pronounces that this is who I want to be identified by, and we do not discuss or we do not challenge the person on their their gender identity because they don't have the physical look of what they are talking about. And I hope I've done justice, Angel, sorry.
Yes, yes, you said it all. You said it all. That's what it is. Yes.
Do you have anything to add?
Do you have anything to add, Angel?
Well, I think he has said everything I wanted to say about being a trans person. That it doesn't necessarily mean you have to make up your face, you have to have weave on, you have to have breasts. It's who you identify yourself as, and that's what makes you who you are. So I was born male and with male genitals, everything, but I grew up and I identify myself as a female. So I identify myself as a trans woman. So that's what I am now.
So I do have a question, which is also.
I do have a question.
Come again, please. I can't hear you.
Right. We're getting feedback. I don't know where it's coming from. Okay, perfect. I do have another question that, off script here, which is, a lot of people in Ghana tend to say this is a new phenomenon. This is new. Is it so? So this is a question I want to ask all of us to chime in some sense that is it maybe accurate is the word here, or to say, LGBTQI issues are actually a recent phenomena. It is new. It is. I mean, what is our perception? Of course, it is not new. But again, I want us to sort of dispel that notion that LGBTQI identities are new to us. It wasn't in our culture. So what is your perception on that? And anybody can go. Angel, do you want to respond to that question?
Do you want to respond to that question?
Yes. I think LGBTQ has been with us, but we fail to recognize it. Now that we are creating awareness, people are getting to know. I feel it's the best way. Since they don't want to accept that it is in the system, we want to show them it's there and it is here. It has been there with them since they themselves were born.
Careful.
Also to add that I think that of course
they refuse to understand it. So we.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. I think.
Oh, my network.
Okay. I think. Okay, we are back. All right. Did you want to
We are back. All right. Did you want to
complete your sentence, Angel?
complete your sentence, Angel?
Okay, so what
You,
You.
okay, so what I was saying is that LGBTQ has been with us from existence even before we were born. It has been there from our great grandfathers and all that. They refuse to recognize it. They said all manner of ill things about it. We are demonic, we are this, we are that, we are this. But they keep having children like us every year, every minute, every second, which means we exist. So we are here to show them that yes, we really exist and we are here to stay. They cannot change anything about us. Because you can control my whole body, you can control everything, but you can't control my feelings. What I feel, you can't control it. Yes, and I move with the way I feel. If I feel like dancing today, I will dance, and that's what I feel like doing. You can't change that if I want to do it. So we are here to stay. They just need to be educated, and we just need to create more awareness. We have to be strong and not succumbing to their fears. That's the only way they can understand. Because I feel you can't kill your child. If you have a child like me, you can't kill them. You can't kill me. I was born this way. If you tell me you want to kill the gay out of me, then you want to kill me myself. And if you kill me, it's murder according to your
Yes, sir.
I think we've lost Angel again. We will come back. We will come back to Angel's comment.
Robert. To Angel's comment.
okay.
Robert, can you you were saying
you were saying something earlier.
Yes, so I was just saying that I rather have questions for a lot of people who say that LGBT and persons or the LGBT community is a new phenomena in Ghana. I mean, the Bible that you hold, that you say that it condemns LGBT people, where did this come from? If the Bible is that old, how did it know in those days how old it is that the LGBT people, so the Bible will condemn LGBT people? And basically coming to Ghana, really the key issues are one, the fact that because of the cultural and religious denial of the existence of LGBT people, it is not put in an educational system. Now, a person goes to school and this person is taught there's a man and a woman and they give birth. And there's nothing more than that. That is all that the person is taught. So as a person grows up, that is what the person knows. So imagine that after the colonial people brought these laws to us, and they clear our culture and everything, and then people educated from then till now that LGBT people or gay people are demonic according to the Bible. It's not part of our culture. We moved it from our history, and on. Clears it out of our system, so it becomes sort of doesn't belong to us. It's not part of our system because they take it from our education, they take it from our culture, take it out of a lot of places that people could have learned about it, and then they go back to change themselves and change the laws and put it back into their culture and their system. And therefore, when they leave it and they make it look like that, of course, people who did not know about it in their system and you have it now would say you are bringing it to them. Because at the end of the day, they didn't see it in the education. They didn't see it in their Bible. They didn't see it in their religion. They just saw you coming back to say it is right when you came to tell them it's wrong. So those are the things that contribute to a lot of people. And the discussion on the comprehensive sexuality education in Ghana not so long ago also is a key example of this whole comprehensive sexuality education was fought not because of the education. Or fought because people thought LGBT is going to put part of the discussion of comprehensive sexuality education. So anyone who on radio or in any discussion that I was part of when I was in Ghana, the idea was these people are going to teach our children. Even I think in America and even in South Africa here, since I came, I've heard that many people are fighting comprehensive sexuality education because of the fear that this idea of LGBT
Join him close to me.
population. So it's a key thing that so it's been part of the society. Just a lot of factors have pushed it out and make it look like it doesn't exist.
No, this is a really, really good point, Robert. Thanks for bringing this up. Robert, thanks for bringing this up. Talking about the emphasis on talking about. I think I do hear a lot. Okay, I was like, I think I'm hearing my own voice. No, I think this is something that we need to continue to talk about because it is definitely historically inaccurate to claim that LGBTQI issues are actually are a new phenomenon being brought from the West, because it's not. And I'm hoping that Ghanaian journalists will continue to correct that misinformation, because most of the time they do not correct the misinformation that it is not something that just came from the West. It's been part of our culture for a long time. The same culture that we are trying to protect, truly. So this brings us to a main part of this discussion, which is that Robert, your explanation earlier around the disjuncture between colonial erasure of what sexuality is in our context, and the kinds of violence that has erupted or come about because of the misinformation. So, for instance, from what we've seen so far, the LGBT community is experiencing a lot of violence, and there's been several reports in the past around people acting on misinformation to cause harm to another citizen. So we do have a video that we're going to play quickly here, and then afterwards we will come back and address the next question, which is, what are the experiences of the LGBTQI community in Ghana, and then from there we can move on to other questions as well. So let's hold on for a second and watch this video.
I heard it on radio that the people of the town were saying they are looking for a lesbian who is a witch, and I didn't know it was in reference to me. I was asleep one night and a group of men broke into my apartment. They dragged me outside. Then there was a bonfire set. They poured petrol on me. All those that I thought they help when you are in need, they were all present. The chief, the pastors, the police. I saw there was no place to turn to. If the laws of Ghana are to change or to be repealed, they accept us for who we are and treat us not as lesbians but as human beings.
All right, so we do have another video that we will watch. Afisa, do you think we can watch the other video as well? No? Okay. So let's talk about the okay, here. For those of you who are unaware of the video, the late one, this is the Ghana Police Service actually raiding the LGBT center in Accra, which has sparked a lot of activism around LGBT issues as well. So our question then is, it's an old one. It's an old one, which is what are the experiences of the LGBTQI community in Ghana, especially with regards to violence right now, and also state violence, interpersonal violence, mob violence. So let's talk about that, because that's a huge part of the politics here, which is the community asking to be treated just like any other citizen, basically. So let's talk about that. Robert, do you want to jump in, or Amanda? Anybody who wants to jump in, let's do that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Of course, I am not an insider when it comes to knowing the experiences of LGBTQ people. But what I want to say, particularly in response to generally the issue of the rights of people who identify within the community, it is, as someone who once again kind of is standing outside of, I'm in a privileged position in such that even when I'm in Ghana, I am free from the violence that LGBTQ community, the community experiences, right? Because I don't identify as such, and all of that. But even with that, it is frustrating to me as someone standing by to realize that these are individuals, right? These are people, tax-paying citizens, right? These are people who are part of the community. And the question that I always ask is, why is it that we have institutionalized, state-sanctioned, systemic violence against these people? Why is it that, for instance, social institutions like the church and Islamic organizations stand by, right, regardless of their disagreements with the practices of, and I think that's something that, particularly in the context of Ghana, that's something that people don't realize, right? That regardless of your disagreement with someone's lifestyle, someone's life choices, that the person still remains, in the eyes of the state, that the person still remains a citizen, right? The person still remains someone who should be protected by the state, by the constitution. That's where it and I have to identify here also. I think it's important. I have to identify here also as a Christian, and I think that this is very important in this conversation. And it frustrates me that, for instance, here we are in the 21st century, and a centuries-old institution like the Christian Church still doesn't believe in human rights. They only believe in human rights only as far as they agree with, and even that is a little murky, right? They agree with your life choices, and then they can stand behind it. But it's frustrating to me, and I think that's part of the conversation that, of course, I don't know exactly what the solution is, but this is my frustration, right? That we can't simply agree that, regardless of your disagreement with someone's lifestyle, with how someone chooses to live their lives privately. This is also a very extremely private issue here, right? We are talking about adults. We're not even talking about children, and so it's very frustrating to me that we can't agree that the very private issues, that private choices that adult citizens of a country decide to make should become a reason for supporting systemic violence against them. This is my biggest frustration. And so I always tell other Christians like me, when I have conversations, particularly when stuff like this comes up, is you can disagree with what they do. You can call it sin. You can, whatever it is, you label it. I mean, from my very particular perspective, it's fine. But you should not allow that to let it be the source of supporting marginalization, oppressive systems against these people. And that's something that just I can't get my head around, right? Why do we keep allowing this to stand in the way of marginalizing a significant minority, right, of the population. Why do we allow our disagreement with, if we're doing that, if I was walking around supporting violence, right, physical, emotional, psychological violence against people that I disagree with, I have literally disagreed with every person in my life at this point. So that means that every person in my life will probably, I should support violence against every person in my life, because I don't know any person, including my wife, that I have not disagreed on substantially about something, right? That's just part of life. You can disagree. You can say this is your choice. You make it. But to say that because you made this choice, you deserve to die. Because you make this choice, you deserve to be hurt. You deserve to be thrown outside the gates of the city, right? It's just a little bit. It doesn't sit well with me, and that's what I have to say, particularly about this issue of experiences. And like I said, I have that privilege of not being in that community where I experience the violence or the discrimination myself. But that's what I have to say about this part of the conversation.
Okay. So following up with what Eric also just said, because I'm not in the community, I can't specifically say what the experiences are. But based on readings and observations, this is what I know, that the experiences varies. It varies according to the persons involved, each aspect of this community we are looking at. So, for example, we've always known that they are lesbians. We never had issues, so much of an issue with lesbianism, because whenever you're going to senior high school, the first thing you're told is that, oh, well, some of your seniors may lure you into lesbianism. And we've had names for them. It's something that had become sort of institutionalized. So PDA, almost every girls' school have names for lesbianism. We never had issues with them until men somehow got involved, until this 2006 first reporting of the Gay Lesbian Conference in Ghana. Then it was like a can was opened, and then there was this issues of hate towards this community. So I feel like if you're lesbian, until recently, you didn't face much of any challenge if you belong to that community. But then in recent times, when they are men, and I fear that when it's men, it's extreme and all that. This is what is causing a lot of hate. So when this discussion even came up, there was little attack on lesbians with this recent vetting of the minister and this debate and this setup of an office. The focus was on the gays, and then the idea is that why don't they want to have children? Why don't they want to populate? The idea is that if it's a female, you can easily beat homosexuality out of a woman. You can force her to marry. You cannot force a man to marry. If a man does not give birth, then who follows? Who takes up the identity of the family? Because their surnames, the identity of children are born from the man's end. So all these things are coming in. If we take the trans, for instance, it's not something we also attacking much unless the trans person changes their looks to fit that of a particular sex, and then it becomes an issue of concern. So, for instance, when Robert mentioned that you can even walk around with all your physical features of a male and still identify to be a woman, there's no way you're going to face any form of opposition or hostility if you don't come out to say you come out to say you identify with being feminine. People will just laugh it off. But as soon as you change, then the level of hate, violence, and all forms of hostility increases, right? And then when it comes to intersex, hermaphrodites, it's also something that we know for a very long time. Actually, we sympathize with hermaphrodites more than we do empathize with other groups. So I feel that the experiences vary. Maybe Angel can tell us more. It varies according to what you associate with more, how you identify, and how society thinks that with this particular group, there's little we can do about them, or their engagement in this form of community is a threat to us. Because when it comes to men, we are going to lose our families. We are going to lose our names. We are not going to have children. So then the hostility is more towards men. To think that media men, very influential persons, were against the fact that they call it chumu chumu. So that was the main problem, the fact that there are men involved, and not necessarily because there are diverse groups that belong to this particular community. So I feel that if you're a woman, until recently, you never faced much of any danger if you belonged or if you're associated with being a lesbian and all that. But in recent times, based on our exposure and understanding of these issues. It's actually to the extent that even males with effeminate characteristics who do not belong, who do not associate with the LGBT community, also face violent attacks. So when I was doing my research, even boys as young as 10, 11, 12 are afraid to exhibit effeminate characteristics when they're standing. Somebody will come and ask you, why are you behaving like KB? Why are you behaving like Kojo Besia? And then as soon as you associate with Kojo Besia characteristics, then you are more seen to be gay. And so they start fighting you, they start beating them in school, mocking them, making life uncomfortable for them. So for me, I feel the experiences vary, but then they are more extreme when it comes to males involved in the LGBTQ community.
Thank you so much for that. One thing I encountered also in my research, which I was also called out on when I mentioned that sometimes lesbians don't necessarily face the kind of hostility that gay men face. I got a backlash of that. So I do want to clarify that as well, because lesbians or women who are attracted to other women do experience lots and lots of violence, and sometimes theirs can be even more severe, from what we see a lot, even through reports in the Human Rights Watch, BBC, even the video that we just watched. But I think Amanda is up to a really good point here, which is that it's not necessarily part of the public debate. The public debate tends to center on the sexual act between two men, whereas even though there's still violence against women who are attracted to other women. And also the other point that I wanted to bring up on, in terms of Eric's point earlier, and I think sometimes the violence that people tend to do upon other people here, and I think part of it is the assumption that it is people's choices. I do want to clarify that a little bit there in terms of that. And Angel's point was really good in terms of, this is how I feel, and you can't change that. But maybe, and again, this is a dialogue, right? So there's no like, oh, you're wrong, you're right, or whatever. No, but this is a very interesting conversation that we've all been having, and I think it's very important that I think that part of answering Eric's question, is the fact that we also think that some people assume that it is a matter of you're just choosing to cause harm to yourself, and so we have to bring it back into. So I think, so I think that would be a very interesting way to think. I don't know whether we all have some response to that, because I think it's a very good point that Eric brought there, because in trying to answer Eric's question, we're also getting to what some of those who cause the violence are assuming or are describing the event, right? They describe it as body as like, why are you causing harm to yourself? And I'm going to save you from causing harm to yourself because it's just a choice that you're making. So maybe if anybody wants to jump on that or add something to that or whatever.
Yes, so I have a lot to say. Plenty. All that all of you have said, it's like, as you were talking, I was writing down all the things, and I would start on the idea of because you ended on Eric's talk about choice, I would start from there. I think that's one of the biggest bases for violence against LGBT people. And the idea that they choose, or LGBT people choose to be. And so there's a way that we can either use conversion therapy to change them, or take them to the church to change them, pray for them so that they'll change, or talk to them so that they'll change. Or no, it's not a choice. It is a person. I saw somebody asking a question about culture, about why is it that if it is a culture thing, something about culture. It is not culture. It is not culture. It is a human being. It is a human being who exists. That is what we need to understand, that person being LGBT is not a choice. It's not culture. It is a human being. So you are not thinking about a way of life. You are thinking about a person who has been born as gay. So it is not a lifestyle. It is not somebody has chosen to have a particular lifestyle. No. it is a human being. If you think about it like that, then you see the need for human rights protection. You see the reason why we approach this from the human rights approach, that LGBT people are human beings, and it is not a culture, it is not a lifestyle, it is not a choice, it is a human being. That is number one. So if the churches see that we have human beings in our church who are like that, then they'll treat them as human beings, and that they didn't wake up one morning and dreamt that they have decided that they want to be gay or lesbian. I think another thing I wanted to talk about that Dr. Odoli mentioned was the great idea about the heteronormativity and the patriarchy issues around LGBT. The idea that
can you explain that in very layman's terms?
Okay,
so yeah, once you say heteronormativity, yes, explain that.
There exists this notion that a man and a woman's way of living is a standard. So every other standard is wrong. Every other standard is new. Every other standard must obey to the male and female way of doing things. Sex, how we identify, how we dress, how we talk, how we walk, should obey to that two binary existence. And it is wrong. And so that influences the idea that if I am a man and I'm not behaving a particular way, the holders of heteronormativity will pull me down and say, a man must have sex with a woman, and that is what influences that. And then the patriarchy thing is about this idea that men have some power, some powerful power somewhere that is bigger than any other creature, so they must be put ahead of everybody. So if you're a man and you are behaving in a particular way, you are distorting the idea that a man must be the powerful thing in the house, like how the Bible teaches us. The man is the head of the family. It's wrong. You may believe it because it's your religion or something, fine. Like Dr. Eric said, keep it in your pocket and in your house and let it be there and use it for your family and yourself. And in fact, not for your family, but for yourself. Leave it, but don't push it on other people. Patriarchy is what is causing a lot of male gay men to suffer violence, and they are only talked about more because the patriarchy, the men, believe that men must not behave in a particular way, and therefore they must be in a particular. So once they behave in a way that spoils the power dynamics that exist between a man and a woman, they need to be straightened. There was something that I wanted to talk about also about the West. I saw a question about the West being influenced.
We're going to answer that question. I mean, you mean the question on Facebook post, on the Facebook post, right?
Yes. So then let me just quickly answer the one around the experiences. So quickly, just I was addressing some of the mishaps, but quickly, that violence is very high in the LGBT society, in the LGBT community. The reason why we don't hear about it is because reporting it is hell. Reporting the issue of I have been beaten, I have had somebody take my iPhone, or it's because when the person goes to the police, I have had so many cases, 1,000 cases, I can promise you, where people have gone to the police, they've reported that, look, I've been beaten and my phone has been taken away from me. And then the police went with the person to go and grab whoever the perpetrator is, or the person who committed that offense that the person is reporting them for. And then the perpetrator, the one who rather beat somebody, hits the person, comes and say, oh, I beat him because he's gay. Now, the police turns around and arrests the victim who was beaten and his thing was taken, and put the person behind bars. And that make a lot of LGBT people afraid to report cases. And that is the reason why we don't see a lot of these issues. But there are a lot of reports, like Godfrey has mentioned, one that I have also been part of, that really brings out the data on issues of experience of LGBT people when it comes to violence and human rights and discrimination in Ghana. Thank you.
Thanks so much. This is awesome. This is really awesome. Thanks so much. So we do have a question in, for some of you, if you want to post a question here and we can answer that question, and we can also answer another question before moving on to the next. So let's maybe see one of the questions that we got on the comment section on Facebook. Okay, and then from there we can move on to our questions. So how can one deny the influence of the West in the LGBTQ debate? So, so this. Oh, sorry, Amanda. Do you want to go ahead and answer this, or?
So for me, I was thinking this is not clear. The influence in which regard? Because for me, I think where I acknowledge the influence of the West is in our ability to name and own the identities of these people and work with them. Because then if the LGBT community we are saying existed, but we never had a name for them, so it's through literature from the West, amongst other discussions, that we've been able to now couch a name and say that, okay. So for instance, I was mentioning the lesbianism, and it was in different names, Dear, Supi. In my school, we call them Yos and all that. So like we had different, but now we know there's a certain name for it, that's lesbianism. And then we never had anything actually when it came to the gay community. And so that's how come we're still struggling with a name for it. So for me, the influence has been on its ability to help us identify, own, and understand that there's a certain group whose sexuality do not conform to the cis approach that we use. And also when it comes to transgender, there's a particular group who do not identify with the societal sex structures that says that you should be either male or female, you have to be feminine or masculine. So yes, I do. And then they're influencing how these discussions are also going, ability to open up and create a space for this discussion. But if you say that they are the ones that brought it and are forcing us actually to how to engage in homosexuality and other, I'd say is a lie. If we're actually going to talk about how colonialism in its effect is causing us to have the difficulty to name these experiences. The reason why they were able to bring these laws into our country and to make them hold till now meant that when they came, they saw traces of these things and thought that it was not right and they needed to deal with it. So if you're saying that the influence in making these things come to play in our context, then I disagree. But in naming the experiences, in creating the space for us to talk about it, own them, associate and appreciate and accept them, then I would say yes, they have a huge influence on us in that regard.
Can I quickly add that, as Doc has said, it is a language that has influence, nothing else. Nothing. They haven't influenced anything. It's the language. They have given you the platform to use to have a name. Now, even the person who wrote that question, to say that you are able to write LGBTQ because they gave that language to it for you to write it. You are writing influence because they've told you that say that something that you said in your local language is influence, so you are using it. They have influenced the way we say things. They haven't influenced the fact that people exist and they were born as they are. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question in relation to that?
Yeah.
Right. So,
and this is me being really frank about because our audience is Ghanaians, right? This conversation would have been different to have, for instance, where I am sitting right now, right? If I was having this conversation with people that live where I live right now, it would be a very different conversation. But our audience is Ghanaian. So in terms of, I just want us to address this. It's anecdotal in a lot of ways, but this really widespread kind of notion amongst, and correct me if I'm wrong, amongst Ghanaians, right? That there is this very specific agenda, and don't ask me because I don't know, but it seems like there is this, there's a very widespread notion that there's this very specific agenda by the West to, and I heard this when I was following the debate about I wasn't really following, but I heard some of the debate around the what do you call it, the sexuality education, right? Comprehensive sexuality education. Some of the stuff I heard around that was like, this is a Trojan horse, right? That there's a very specific agenda by the West to bring to kind of force us, or kind of force us to do something that we really don't want to do, but so we have to assert ourselves. and I don't know what the response is to that, because that I haven't really, once again, my privilege here speaking, I haven't really delved into that. So what is that what is the response to this notion?
Well,
The notion
let
of
me maybe
homosexuality being a Trojan horse, is that what you're asking? Or
Yes, I
sexuality?
mean the notion that the West and in the West here, particularly the US and Western Europe, right, has a very specific agenda to introduce homosexuality into, or the acceptance of it, right, into particularly African communities or society. What was the response to that question?
I think that is what we've just answered, that it's not something that is coming to us from the West. It is something that we've had. The only thing they're helping us is to name our experiences and our ability to address it. Until you name something, you will not even get the concept to unpack and how to deal with it. We've had sexuality education all this while. And I mentioned, initially when you're going to senior high school, you were told to be careful of suppies, yo's, dears, and everything. It was a form of sexuality education. It wasn't brought to us from the US. It wasn't brought to us from Europe. They didn't come to tell our parents to warn us against what our seniors could potentially do to us. So what we're saying is that that's one thing that we are all aware of, the fact that because our culture and our history was oral in nature, we were never able to document them. So these were messages that were passed along from generation to generation. We changed along the line. But just now we have specific words. We have hard copy literatures with names and all that we are working with right now. That's what makes it seem as if we didn't have words that reflected these practices. We didn't have identities that could be reflected in this regard. Because we didn't have a name to it, or our forefathers could not put down the names that we could associate with these groups of people, is why we are struggling right now. It's why a group that has been able to document its experiences and its identities, helping us to shape and reflect and come out with how we would address our own, seem to be influencing us in a way that is so alien to us. For me, that's where I'm coming from. I think it's not new. We just did not have the tools to unpack these discussions. And they have given us all these tools and access to this information right now.
The alternative to that as well, right? It's also maybe to think about the fact that, what did it matter to us? That somebody's sexual identity mattered to us so much, because if even within our own language, we don't necessarily have pronominal differences like we talked about the last time, right? We don't really categorize somebody as a man or woman because perhaps it wasn't necessary for us. And I think Dr. Odoi's point is very important in the sense that maybe we didn't talk about it because it wasn't a big deal for us. But think about what colonialism, in some sense, reconstructs that to say you must be something. And I think that is where we are now beginning to think about a particular group of people very differently, in the sense that going back to heteronormativity, going back to patriarchy, going back to this idea that the nuclear family, you have a marriage between a man and a woman, even though there's a lot of evidence within, it's different parts of African societies, we had different conceptions of even marriage. It wasn't necessarily around this, you were a man and you're a woman and you have kids, but if sometimes even in some communities, it was a collective thing. So I think it's very important for us to demarcate this idea that somehow something is coming from the West. And there's a question here that we have to respond in a short while when we hear from Robert. But I think this is a very Dr. Odoi's point is well taken, in the sense that we might not have had the tools for it, but I think in general we did have the tools for it. But we just talked about it differently. We didn't talk about it the same way as we've been talked about now. So, for instance, a lot of our in my own studies, I've seen that sexual education talk around sex typically is very liminal. It's not so obvious.
Yeah.
We don't talk about sex obvious, and also if we engage in oral education, oral traditions, we didn't necessarily write things down, but talk about sex was just orally transmitted. So if there's a gap in generation and they don't actually learn them, we've maybe lost quite a bit of them. So I think all of these are important elements to this issue, which I think Africa is huge. Ghana, the borders of Ghana were just drawn in Germany. There are so many ethnic groups with very different cultural systems between the Ga, the Ashanti, the Achim. So it's very, very it's first, sometimes I think it's very disloyal of us to not being disloyal, but it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, let's say disloyal of us, right? To just assume that we had this one monolithic cultural tradition. No, we had several different ones, right? Right. Robert, you have something to say earlier.
So very quickly, because time is going, come back to the point again. Gay people are human beings born. They are not a culture. They are not a lifestyle that somebody is bringing from the West as an agenda.
Yeah.
Think, in anyone who is listening to us and you want to understand, think about it. Your brother, your sister, your friend was born as a human being and have a sexual orientation. There are Ghanaian LGBT people who have never come into contact with a white man since they were born. And they don't even know, even this as we are talking, they will not even hear it, but they are gay lesbians. So think about people as human beings. Nobody is bringing some cloned gay lesbian human beings from abroad to come and put to us and mix with us so that we become gay people are born as human beings. Now, why did the Bible come and why did the colonial person bring those laws? I think that was mentioned before. So now if they brought it to come and clear it, that because it existed, and now they have realized that, look, what we are doing is wrong, and so we are changing our own in our country, and they are changing their own. You are saying that they are bringing it to us. No, it's just that we are supposed to also realize that the person who brought us that law and said that this is wrong and brought us a Bible, which was a tool for colonialism, says that this Bible that I'm talking about that said that male and woman in the Victoria era was wrong. And I to you, I've changed my mind. I say that it is not true. It is different. You are saying that the person is bringing an agenda. No, the person is just saying the truth to themselves. They have realized that what I did to these people is wrong. What I did to myself is wrong. And so I'm changing my mind. And that is the idea.
Right. Yeah. There is a question. There's a question on Facebook that I want us to quickly answer. There's a question from Della Sikaji, and I don't know if we can pose that question here as we quickly try to address that. So she says, I think every time activists also claim it is part of African culture, they fail to recognize that something being part of a culture is not the same as that being acceptable or the norm. Moreover, evidence to back the claim that African cultures practice homosexuality is still scanty. The cultures within which scholars have found the practice are very few, nowhere near those that have not found in it. My point is, we may be giving too much room to colonialism, and this may not order well for the activism if more contrary evidence is found moving forward, because there are so many things in Ghanaian law, for example, that did not exist in the UK laws, and there are many aspects of UK law that we did not adopt as a people when we were copying their laws. This being said, why must something even have prior existence, read acceptance to be accepted? And I think to sort of narrow it down here, why must something even having prior existence be read to be read as acceptable?
Yeah, I think I actually agree with that. It didn't have to be there before for us to accept it now. It could have been a new thing that is springing up, and there are people in this context who relate and associate with that. So how do we deal with the people that are currently associating with this community and this group, even if it's new, even if it's something that we never had in our context? Does that mean that we shouldn't accept it? Is it everything that we are doing now that had always been there, that we had always accepted? No, we have introduced new things into our culture. We have introduced new things into our system. We've learned new things. We've moved on. At first, if you're a woman and you don't wash with your hands and you use washing machine, it was an abomination. Now most homes have it. Was it part of our culture? Were we using washing machines before? Was it not? Is it not a Western influence? Why have we accepted these things, but we can't accept the fact that certain group of people do not align and associate with what we have appreciated all this while?
I think
I agree with her.
I think we should go back to the discussion that I said it is not a culture, it is not a lifestyle. People don't choose to be gay. You see, if you get that understanding very quickly, you will not even engage in this discussion of why are we, no. Because the idea is that if somebody exists, are you questioning the existence of a human being?
Yeah.
You know, that is the question you ask the person. Are you questioning the existence of the birth of a human being being born? You know, because it is not a lifestyle. If you look at culture, if you mention culture again, culture is the lifestyle of a group of people over time. And like you mentioned, washing machine, we're washing our hands, now washing machines come. If you engage in that discussion of culture, people will say, well, there are good ones and there are bad ones. We can choose the good ones and leave the bad ones. No. So that is why we are saying that it is not a culture. We don't say that it's not part of our culture, it's not part of our tradition. That is, sorry, I was going to use a but it is the existence of a human being. If you are working in an office with someone, the person is born and the person comes to the office. The person is not living a lifestyle. The person is existing as a human being. You get it? If you clear this idea of your mind about culture and existence, it will be clearer to you that if you have a brother who was born and the person says, I'm gay, the person did not come to be born before they realize that they are gay. They are gay from the womb that they came from, you know, because you cannot say that the person is now learning. Of course, there is sexual activity. A man can have sex with another man. The person is not gay. And that is one thing people must understand. A woman can have sex with another woman and the person is not lesbian.
Yeah.
There's a difference between sexual activity and the sexual orientation of a person. And if we understand that a man can exist as a heterosexual and have sex with another man who is gay, or have sex with another man who is heterosexual, and still remain heterosexual. If you doubt me, go and visit our prisons. Thank you.
Even beyond the prisons. So when I was doing my research, in a community I went to in Accra, they accept the fact that there are men who engage in same-sex marriages with men as a form of occupation. They make monies out of it. They don't associate or align with being homosexuals or gays, but then they engage in same-sex relationship with men as a source of income generation activity for them. So you don't have to go to the prisons. It's right in front of us. It's all over the that. Yeah.
So I do want to quickly. I know Eric will be leaving us very soon. Thanks so much, Eric, for being with us. But we will have to be moving on to the next question because we have maybe about 2 more questions to go, and I know this discussion can go on, and I love it. So I do want to answer quickly the last question about whether activists who are claiming that homosexuality in some form did exist on the continent should, even though there is scant evidence for it. I know, and I'm going to delve a little bit into academic research language because that's how I understand how to explain this. And yes, of course, homosexuality in itself and as a concept, and this is what we also have to understand, that we're not just talking about the actual practice of, for instance, somebody putting, their genital organ into another genital organ, but we're still thinking about it as an identity. It's part, and as Robert was talking about, it is a human being. We're talking about a human being first. And so human beings come in different forms. We have different parts of ourselves. And sometimes, and I think what colonialism did here is sort of craft a particular version of a human being and circulate it, that this is what a human being is supposed to be. So in the end of the day, we are realizing that actually what colonialism sent around, what the British thought was, this is the ultimate human. It doesn't actually, it's not accurate. Now, I also want to point out quickly here that sexuality or same-sex sexuality, as it existed across the continent, it came in different forms. We didn't call them, of course, gay, lesbian, but we had our own names. It had a different arrangements. So yes, if you're looking for gay on the continent in 1890, you might not necessarily see that specific format. You might see a different arrangement. So I think going back to that question, that should activists rely on evidence that is not necessarily existent, I think we might be using a different lens to trying to understand a concept or an issue or a being. I would say, I'm trying to use Robert's words here, a human being practice at that time. That is not the same. It wasn't necessarily the same arrangement of sexuality as we see it now. So I think even with sexuality scholars right now, we are grappling with all of these things, and I think we need to, we need to make it a little bit more complex in that sense. Yes, we have LGBTQ right now, but in our past, it wasn't necessarily the same arrangement, even though we had same-sex sexuality. So it was still here, just in different arrangement. So we're going to move on to a different question. So our next question, we're going to watch a video quickly because we need to clarify the local and international legal frameworks that exist around LGBT issues. So let's watch a video quickly, and then we can come back and discuss that. And afterwards, we'll have one more question and then bring this to a close. But let's watch a video.
To be honest and candid with you.
Okay,
Ghana, we are fighting a losing battle.
Oh!
That was in me, Kramoni.
Yes, I.
My religion is frowned upon against the Sa Adi Nyamaniwano. Nti min support no. But Usaka say me a lawyer.
We are lawyer, yes.
Nti me lawyer cap no share. I think that we are fighting a losing battle.
Why?
You see, you create a rights-based society. A rights-based society. Actually, say, so be were right to do something now. Won't mean preventing you from doing those things.
All right, so thanks so much for that video. So my next question here, which afterwards we're going to take a few more questions from our viewers online. So what local international legal frameworks exist around LGBTQ issues? So Robert, do you want to tackle that?
Sure. So I'll start with the international legal framework. So every international human rights treaty that Ghana has signed, LGBT people are entitled like any other person. So like I said before, I keep pushing this agenda, and I hope by the time we finish, listeners, viewers will understand that LGBT people are human beings. It's not a lifestyle. They don't choose it. So as human beings, as they are like you and I, they are also entitled to those human rights that are in those treaties, from the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which give us our rights to live, to have life, to work, to all of that. LGBT people are entitled. International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, Ghana has signed so many years ago. LGBT people are entitled. I can mention all of them. There are about 8 or 9 key treaties, and Ghana has signed all of them, and we are entitled as human beings, as LGBT people, whoever we are. LGBT people are entitled to that as human beings. Now, when it comes to national laws, all human rights documents that Ghana has, LGBT people are entitled. So when it comes to the Constitution, Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution has fundamental human rights from Article 12 down to about 33. All those rights LGBT people have. So it means that if somebody is LGBT, they're also entitled to fair trial. They're entitled to right to life, right to vote, right to exist, right to. So that is why you cannot discriminate. You cannot say because this person is gay, the person should not sit here. This person is gay, the person cannot look this way, this person cannot do this, because how you as a human being would not want to be treated. That's the same way you should not treat other people, because the laws protect everybody. If a police arrests a person for doing a wrong thing, that person is entitled to fair trial. is entitled to ensure that they get all the basic rights that any person who's arrested is entitled to. So it's important that we understand that. So, and then we have the Domestic Violence Act, we have the Children's Act, we have the Persons with Disability Act, we have all those laws that exist in Ghana. Now, this is to say very quickly, Godfred, I know this is to say that one, that LGBT people are human beings and entitled to all the basic human rights. It means that LGBT people are not asking for any special law that should come. All that LGBT people are asking for is that those rights that already exist, accorded, you know, that you should, if a person goes to the hospital, they should get the basic fundamental human rights that's enshrined. What law exists that goes against the LGBT people is against human rights. You are saying that the person can't love. And that is why we are saying it should be decriminalized, it should be removed. And to let people understand quickly that that law also affects you as a heterosexual. If a man, if you're a woman and a man puts their sexual organ in your mouth, it is against our laws in Ghana. If a man puts his, if you do your hands, as I've done, as you can see, and they put their sexual organ through it, it is an offense against the law. So be mindful, if you are caught in your bedroom and you call yourself heterosexual, a pastor, a lawyer, a doctor, a policeman, and you have put your sexual organ in your woman's mouth, you have created an offense against Section 104 of the Criminal Offences Act, and you must be arrested. That law is not for gay people, and it is not. It's not that it's for alone. No, it is not for gay people. It's also. It's if you read it and you understand it, it is for people who commit sexual offense that says that unnatural carnal knowledge, which is putting the male sexual organ into any part of the human body apart from the female sexual organ. So if you understand it that way, you see that law, even you as a heterosexual, will fight against that law. Thank you.
Right. Angel, do you have something to add on that question, or you're good?
Oh, I think he said it all. He said it all. If there's anything I'll say, he has said everything. So
okay. Oh, I do have a question for you before there are some questions on Facebook that I want us to cover, but before we go on to those questions, and thanks very much, Robert. That was splendid. So let's talk about the media, the Kenyan media around these issues. And I think we all know last week we did talk about something similar around the Kenyan media. So what should be the role of the media in responding to these issues? And the question we have here is, what is the role of the media in perpetuating the violence? Because yes, we see quite a bit here with regards to the media not either blatantly disinforming the public or sort of giving the same or equal weight to false information when they are said in on their shows. So what is the role of the media here? And from there, we can move on to one of the last questions. Also move on to the questions on Facebook. So yeah, Angel, do you want to maybe talk about, because I see that you have been engaging with the media a lot, and we do want to know, what is the media's role here, basically?
Well, I think the media's role is to educate people about the LGBT community, not to incite hate or give them false information about the community as a whole. I think the media needs to be educated. Some people are blunt. Some people don't even know. But like for me, for instance, if I go for a show or if I'm invited to a show, that some people ask some kind of weird questions, and I talk to myself even before I answer the question, like, did this person even read before coming to sit here to ask me this kind of thing? You see, so I feel the media has a lot of work to do. They have to learn, they have to research more, because people listen to them, especially our local stations. Most people don't have TVs in their homes. Everybody in Ghana doesn't speak English. Everybody in Ghana doesn't have access to the internet. Everybody in Ghana doesn't know about sexuality or anything. And most people depend on the radio, on the TV for information and for news. So if the people who come to sit on the radio, on the TV, or even give people the chance to come on the radio or on the TV to come and insult gays and lesbians and tell them how it is an abomination, how it's not accepted in the society, how it's not our culture, how it's not like this and that and that. You know, it's misinforming. That's how I'll put it. They misinform the general public people. That's how I put it. But if the media comes and says that, look, these people are human beings and their rights should be protected. If you feel this person is gay or this person is lesbian and you catch that person in the act, take the person to the police station with evidence. Because I think you can be arrested or whatever based on evidence, not hearsay. You see, and the myths and misconceptions that they preach on the radio and TV, people can even come and say, if a gay person passes by you, it's bad luck and all your business will collapse. And so if I see educated people, because I don't think you can go and sit on the radio if you're not educated. If you cannot push the buttons, you cannot sit there. So if you are educated and you want to go on the radio and it's your job to inform people, to educate them, then educate them the right way, not to spew hate, not hate speech, not to come and sit down and say, when you meet them, beat them, and even give people the chance to come and sit down there and also say anything they want to say, like pastors coming to use religion. I think the pastor's religion could be different from mine. The way he understands his Bible could be different from the way I understand it. He could interpret the Bible in different ways, which he will understand it based on the way he understands what he reads. So you can't bring your understanding to radio or on TV to tell people that this is how it's supposed to be and this is what it is. People have driven their children from their homes just because the pastor or one lawyer or one person came to say on radio and said that, oh, you woman who have a child who is gay or lesbian, that is why you're not progressing, that is why you're this and that and that and that. And people who are not inclined like some of us will really sit down and be like, oh yes, this is why this thing happened, this is why this thing did like this and that and that. And they are vulnerable children, they are innocent children at home, are there suffering the consequences. While that person who came to sit on that radio to say all that nonsense, excuse me to say, is in their homes relaxing and eating their pizzas and all that, while other people are suffering. And that is what the media is supposed not to entertain. You see, if we want people to understand what is going on, start from the basis, start from the grassroots, make your researches. LGBTQ has existed. I've read so many novels, books, all the things about LGBT, which means it existed in Africa. But one thing I've realized is that people find it difficult to read. Even for them to come and sit on their own show, things that they want to say, they talk about things that comes from their head and not what they've read about and even understood. So I think the media should educate themselves well before they come and sit there. And when they bring people there to come and talk, they should correct them.
Right.
Because if I read, if I have enough knowledge about something I want to go and talk on the show, and somebody comes on that same show and says something negative, whilst we all know the truth, that person should be corrected right there.
Right.
Not wait for them to cause the damage and later on come and go and meet the person in one corner and tell the person, oh, you didn't say it like this, it was supposed to be like this, when the negative information have been sent already. When there's no repair, you can't repair the damage you've caused. So I think the media is supposed to sit up and educate the people, not misinform them.
Thank you. No, you are absolutely on point there. There are some comments and discussions on our Facebook post that I do want to I do want to talk about quickly here. So Papa Kojo Ampofo Dudu is saying that the born as I am narrative of defending anyone being LGBT, I think is very confusing to me. Are there scientific, genetic, sociological, evolutionary arguments that prove this? So, I would try as much as possible not to make this conversation around, because whether it's somebody born gay or somebody isn't born gay, I don't think it matters. And we will come back to Robert's point here. Are you looking at a human being or you're not looking at a human being? And I think that is a crucial part of this conversation. And also, even scientists over the years, and I'm a social scientist, and Dr. Odo is also, a researcher and a professor, and we have seen, the data that we have is obviously pointing to the fact that of a combination of nature versus nurture, but actually it is, there is, nobody really knows. It's almost like asking, can I social engineer to have a female baby or male baby? Like we maybe in the future we can, but these are all just nature determines that. So I think we don't really have the answer to that, and I don't think we should even go to that conversation, because it's an evolving academic conversation that we don't have the answer for right now. But it's very important for us to really stick to what I think Robert and Angel is trying to say here. Robert, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes,
before?
I wanted to ask the person: was he or she born a human being?
Right.
And when did he decide that he's heterosexual? And
Right.
when did he decide that? How scientific did they prove it for him that he's heterosexual? He should give that information so that we can have a discussion, like you said, because I've never heard or seen a heterosexual who is born, born and it is written on their forehead, heterosexual. It doesn't exist. So, like I said, the first thing is every human being is born.
Mm-hmm.
Every other experience they live, it is internal. Like how you see a woman or a man and you're sexually attracted, and nobody's beating you for it, and nobody is telling you that there's a scientific proof and genetic and all of whatever you're talking about. It's the same thing. The only difference is that you have emotions. The person, the only scientific I can talk about to you is you have emotions. The person has emotions. You have feelings towards something. The person also has a feelings towards something. The only difference is that your feelings is towards opposite. The person's feelings is towards the same.
Right.
Doesn't make you different from that person. You're a human being. You are respected as a human being. Don't be involved in the person's business of their sexual orientation, because it's none of your business. Thank you.
Exactly.
Right.
I think one thing we should also understand, Comfort, I want to come in here, is that however we feel and our desires towards a certain group or a certain person, it's dependent on us. That's how come somebody can be so much in love with a rich person somebody is okay with. So when we talk about issues of sexuality, it has to do with our emotions, our desires, our attraction. So how do you know which one you're attracted to? It's not supposed to be determined by some other person. So I don't have to come and prove this scientifically that I am gay because according to this genes minus this genes and all that, I'm supposed to come out this way for me to be gay, and then I have to have this components of this elements and all that for me to come out as heterosexual. It is about how and who I'm attracted to. I have friends in the LGBT community. I love them. I appreciate they're smart, they're good, but that is their choice. They've chosen it. I don't have to prove this scientifically why they should have been like me and why I'm not like them. So I think that's something we should understand, that how we're attracted to things, what we like, what we don't like, is personal choices. And we don't have to get some scientist from space or somewhere to come and say that how you feel and the composition of how you feel is not scientifically right, so correct it. So that's something I think we have to appreciate and understand, that these are individual choices and based on our feelings, emotions, our desires and all that. So we have to respect those things.
And can I come in a second?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so when we talk about this culture and religion and all these things, I don't think our culture teaches us to hate. I don't think the religion teaches us to discriminate or to fight people or to judge people. But that is what we see. Pastors coming on TV, on their radios, in their churches, and even condemning LGBTs. Fine. I don't think it's the culture of an African to wear suits and a tie. Is it our culture? It's not our culture. But you are wearing the suit and the tie which a gay person made, and you sit on the radio, on the TV, on your church. You are using the microphone, which is not our culture. I think we are using talking drums, wearing animal skin. So we are, if you want to talk about sin, then we all are sinners. Because I don't think everybody was born with this Indian hair I was wearing. But there are so many women out there who are all wearing it. Are they not sinners themselves?
Right.
They are, yes.
Right. For the sake of time, we are going to shift ahead. No, thanks so much, Angela. I know these conversations can get very they're very passionate because it's people are talking about other human beings as if they we need some scientific evidence, like what Amanda was saying. There are some comments on there that I do want to point out. So thanks so much for engaging. On our Facebook page, and I know there's some comments. For instance, someone, and again, we always try to make the correlation between LGBT rights issues and pedophilia and all of these other.
Are there heterosexual men who are pedophiles?
Right, exactly. And I think the goal of this show is to sort of help us think through these things, and I think we really should begin to set up these or emphasize these demarcations. We're not talking about pedophilia. That is an entirely different category. So we will keep it in a different category. But here we're talking about a human being or two human beings in consensual relationships. So let's talk about the last question. The last question is the future of LGBT rights or human rights in Ghana. So we have one more video, and then let's show that one video, and then we can come back and talk about what is the future like. So just hold on for a second here.
What's up?
Fine.
What be your name?
Ajetiana.
You be Muslim or Christian or?
I be Christian.
Christian. Okay. So I won't beat you some few questions. I won't know your opinion about LGBT. But first of all, you know what LGBT be?
No.
You don't know what? But hear of gay, lesbian before?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what be your opinion about that?
In terms of is it good or bad or?
Well, is it good to you? Is it good?
Me, I would say gay is good, but lesbian it's not good.
Why?
Lesbian, how can a woman fuck woman?
But if you say gay be good, but lesbian no.
No, that one there is no good. It's just waste of time and feelings.
All right. So, like, if you find out, say, your family member or your friend or your girlfriend be lesbian, what could be your reaction? Then how you go treat the person?
To me, if I fancy my sister be lesbian, me that one there, it be one cup of tea. But if I fancy my brother be lesbian, I go fuck him.
If you find out say your sister be lesbian, that one no be your problem. But if you find out say your brother be gay, you go fuck him. Why?
Why? I be a request for it.
Okay, so you think say like them for allow gays and lesbians, make them pamper them, make them allow them.
Ghana here, we have some mentality that lesbian and gays in this they are no good on. But we are talking about lesbian, that's how the person feels. It's about feeling, it's about heart. You develop your heart, you go for it. Me like this, if I choose to be a gay, you don't know why. Maybe I see girls to be nothing to me, or like they are just human beings, but I don't feel like comparing myself with them. So if I choose to be gay, it's my own cup of tea, it's my life, so it's my choice.
All right, so this was a very different video than what typically we do here or see across the media platforms in Ghana. And as you can see, typically we do see a distinction between what these parliamentarians and this anti-LGBT activists do talk about quite a bit, and actually what lay people in Ghana, what their opinions are, in relation to this issue. So then my question here, which is to wrap up today's lovely conversation, and thank you also for being with us this long. What is the future? What do we see moving up? As we move along, or as we move ahead, what is the future of LGBT rights in Ghana?
I feel personally, it's so far has been this hostility and hatred, right? And it's also because we have them as a minority group. So a lot of people have not had encounters with people in this community to know how they are. Maybe we're here discussing these issues because we've been privileged to come in contact with people that belong to this community, and we've seen how exceptionally well they do, how they contribute to society and all that. And we've also been privileged to understand that these are choices. So with time, when we have come to understand that these are people's choices, this is what people want to do, and they do not fall into the same categories of crimes like this pedophilia that they want to associate with and all that, and that every form of person belonging to any form of sexuality can engage in this, and when they do, it's a certain offense that we have to acknowledge. There's going to be an open space. I think the president was asked at some point, and if what is the future, I think, for homosexuality in Ghana, and he says that, well, you can never tell the future, but I believe that at a certain point there's going to be a certain level of understanding and appreciation of people's sexuality, why they make certain choices, and there's going to be a change in how we're having these conversations. There's a lot of research on this right now. I think what people are also looking out for is that if we're able to prove that historically this thing existed, if literature is able to prove it, people are going to have a certain change of mentality and socialization and orientation. Also, there's a certain understanding that if somebody is a homosexual, a gay, the person cannot father children, the person cannot own. And then there's also this lack of appreciation of the fact that people make choices not to be parents. So if we're able to understand all these things that have become a sort of contestation for people, and how they're a sort of contention, and why they should accept homosexuality, I think there's going to be a change. I use the issues of feminism and gender as a point of agreement. When it started, it was like a whole turmoil environment. People were fighting strongly. But at some point, when they realized it's important, when it became an analytical tool for doing certain things, we have come to appreciate and accept aspects of it and how we need it. And it's the same way that as it affects human beings, and as policy and all that takes this into consideration, because there's a need for us to look at this. If you don't cater for the need of people in this community, it has a rippling effect, consequences for this general society, how we provide healthcare for them, how we even train, because there's a point where we're going to recognize that there's a need to train medical personnel that understand the body and practices of these people. And as these things go on, we're just going to have a certain open space and acceptance and understanding of the need to engage these people that we have in our community.
So Robert, before do you want to go ahead, Robert or Angel, if you have anything to say? So Angel, thanks for joining us again. We are talking about the future of LGBT rights in Ghana, and anyway, Robert, do you want to jump in on this one?
Sure, that's fine. One, to say that awareness is increasing. I mean, the idea that we're having this conversation some years ago, for some of us who've been in the struggle for the past 15 or so years, some years ago, you couldn't do this. This was like a taboo. I mean, you couldn't even talk about LGBT issues. And so for me, I think that there is the incremental awareness among the population, even the conversation we had. Look at the kind of person saying what they are saying on the street. So it means that awareness needs to increase, and is increasing, and LGBT people across Ghana also need to start talking and getting involved in the conversation. So it's a very great opportunity to have Angel to be a key example of what exists, and people will not have it as a figment of their imagination when we are talking about these issues. Another key thing is, as the president of Ghana said in BBC News some time ago, and also to even talk about it as a whole, that advocacy, activism, about LGBT is incremental. Over time, it's going to become necessary, like how Dr. Ode has also said. Over time, it's going to become something. Look, US people think that the US was born with gay people walking around and saying, "Hooray, rainbow, happy! Oh, we are gay, we are happy." No, it didn't start like that. 50 years ago, go and ask what happened there. They were beating like LGBTs were beating in Ghana. They were also people were using Bible and all of that against them, like other people are using now in Ghana. And over time, as we learn the best practices, we should learn from best people that human beings exist, and they will not, because a man has sex with a man doesn't mean that somebody who wants to give birth will not give birth. The world will not going to exist. How do you call it? It will not go away because people are not giving birth. So I think those are the key things that I'll say, that awareness is increasing and the future is bright. Human rights is a key thing that we must all understand, that every individual, man, woman, gay, lesbian, white, black, everybody must be protected for that. So it took so many years for people to also achieve what they have achieved. Europe and all the people that we are talking about, that they are bringing it to you, some 50 or 100 years ago, they also had laws against sexual orientation and gender identity as we have now, and things have changed. So the future is possible. Things are going to change. A lot of things that have changed in this world that we never thought in those days. Corona is changing. So everything is possible. Thank you.
Angel, do you have anything to add to the future of LGBT rights in Ghana?
Yes, I think that we shouldn't back out. We should still educate people, empowering them. We shouldn't attack them, because some of them don't really understand what is going on. We should just take our time and still educate them. Yes, they will definitely attack us, because some people have made their mind. They don't want to really accept. They don't want to agree. They think that we are doing something evil. But I think the future is bright, because some of us are out, and we are showing in their faces for them to know that we exist. And I know there's one woman out there somewhere who have a child like me, who is hiding, and that child looking at me gives that child hope, that there's hope in the future, that yes, even though I'm like this, I can really become like this person. If this person fought their way to become who they are today, they can become who they are. So if I've been able to become like this, why not? There's still hope, there's still future. We should just continue, making the noise, continue educating the people, the masses. Any least opportunity we have, we should try to touch a life. That is what we are supposed to do. In our individual homes, in our communities, at our workplaces, we could inculcate this kind of conversations. Then, we change the narrative, because there are people there who all they know is, yes, it's an evil thing. It's like this, it's like that, it's like that. But when they get more education, things will change. It didn't take a day for me to become like this. I started, let's say, I realized myself like 20 years ago, but I was learning gradually, small, till I was able to reach to where I've become. So I think as we keep educating people, as we keep informing them, letting them know, the narrative will change. And I believe that soon it will change. It wouldn't be that easy. If I say soon, I don't mean tomorrow or next year, but it will change soon. Yes.
Right.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm seeing all the praise to all of your comments. Malaka Grant said, yes, it took 50 years of activism. And P Flame Neokaya J is saying no one is going to keep anything secret. You can't tell people what they should live how they should live their lives. And also I'm seeing I think Papa Kojo Ampofo Dodo is saying, thank you, Amanda. If this is a choice narrative, then I believe that as long as my sexual attraction to someone of the same sex does not harm my environment or anyone around me, there isn't any reason why I should be murdered on the streets. So keep your comments coming in. Very, very great comments. So the last thing, there is a comment here that I would like us to address quickly before I let you all go. There is a comment on the issue of influence. So there is a question, and this person is saying, on the issue of influence, if there is no influence, why do our Western partners attach conditionalities regarding LGBT acceptance to aid? I think that's influence, don't you? Robert, do you want to answer that?
Yes, so the idea, I'm trying to also answer some of the people on the platform comment, but yes, I think that, there are things that, for instance, human rights, it's basically human rights. It is nothing, there's need more discussion than that. If people are saying, look, respect these people who are different from you, that you seem not to understand, give them the basic care and services that they need, why are you saying that it is wrong? Look, conditionalities are not only for gay people, so don't make it look like it is for only gay people. Conditionalities are for schools. Even sometimes we say we shouldn't employ anybody in our government again as a conditionality. We say that we are talking about gender equality in employment. There are so many conditionalities, my dear people. So don't make this thing look like it's a gay thing. The only reason why people will say that, if you disrespect a human being who has a difference in orientation, I will not give you this funding. And for that matter, donors give money for so many different things. Why are you focusing on only the money that comes with the condition for gay people? Money comes for education, money comes for schools, money comes for everything. So why are you focusing on one thing? It's because there is a misunderstanding in your brain that you need to ask questions and you'll be answered. You need to inquire that why, and don't make specific statement that you cannot prove on your own, that you have proof that this is the truth, that this is it. Always ask questions so that those who know, I don't know certain things in certain fields. If I go to those fields, I keep quiet and I ask questions. Similarly, if you don't understand something, you ask questions, and people who know will give you the answers. Thank you.
So thankfully, Angel, do you want to wrap up then?
Yes. I don't think anybody can just walk to the bank and pick any money they want and just walk out. If you want to request for a loan at the bank, there are conditions that comes with it. Some can even give their houses as collateral. So I don't know the condition, whoever is saying that funding comes with conditions and all that. Even in your homes, you have conditions. So there's conditions everywhere.
Absolutely.
If you live with your parents, they tell you to sleep at 8 o'clock, you will sleep at 8 o'clock, because when you come back at 9, your door will be locked. Absolutely. So the conditions is everywhere. So it doesn't mean that because they need funding and it's because of LGBT, so the government, the foreign donors will give conditions. No. I don't believe in that.
Absolutely.
I don't. Yes.
So to wrap things up, one thing that I think moving forward, especially with this conversation, I think Robert did mention that, and also Angel did mention that. But I think, and I'm just seeing this on the Facebook comments. Malaka Grant says, "Thank you. We need an inquisitive nature instead of distributing loud and wrong opinions." And even I'm seeing some of these wrong opinions on the Facebook comments. And I think part of this conversation maybe goes back to the media's role in enforcing and making sure that we're getting, very well researched or adequate information. Also, we are hearing from people in the community. And sometimes it is very sad to me when you're hearing from people in the community and yet people are asking for evidence. They're asking for evidence. I'm like, you have the evidence in front of you. People are experiencing violence. They are telling you about it. And then you're saying, no, I need evidence. So I think moving forward for me, I think this conversation needs to really come from, or also be engaged with, in conversation with the community. But also, we need experts. We need experts like Robert. We need, in their field. We need experts like Angel in their field. We need experts like Amanda Odo in their field. And I think this is very, very crucial because whenever I'm hearing about these conversations in Ghana, we have like 4 pastors talking about LGBT issues, and none of them actually have even maybe researched about this issue. So I think it's very important moving forward that we engage with expertise, and as Malaka did talk about, we also have to come with an inquisitive nature instead of just assuming that we already know what we need to know and that's it. That is definitely not true. So Amanda, I know you're still here. Do you want to have a last words before we wrap up?
I think with Robert and Angel have said almost everything, but I think it's about time we looked at those in the LGBT community as human beings that have choices, which we have already mentioned. And we have to stop looking at it from the perspective that these are people, and because of the kind of sexual activity they want to engage in, cannot be parents. Actually, we have heterosexual people who are not ready to be parents. We have heterosexual parents who have had children and can't take care of them and are being adopted by those in the LGBT community. There's a whole lot of inventions and developments that can have people in same-sex relationships having children. You don't even have to have a baby born out of a woman. There are babies born in test tubes and all that. So we have to stop making it look as if as soon as you engage in that, you're not going to have children. These are some of the things that are bringing so many misconceptions and fears around, making people feel that if when you go in there, then it's like you're lost and lost that forever. And people in this community do not have mental problems. They don't. You see, if somebody makes a choice that you don't like, does not mean the person is mad. So we are more in Ghana. That's what. So everybody must do a certain line, such that if you don't do that, then everybody thinks that there's something weird, there's something wrong with you. So it's like going for a church discussion, and then they are raising an opinion, and you question it, and it's like you're a sinner. Why are you questioning the Bible in this regard? So these are the very things we are bringing to the table that is causing the problem. So if you're able to take our time, break these things down and understand. If you're a Christian and you feel that your religious belief says that you shouldn't be gay, don't be. Not all homosexuals are Christians. Not all homosexuals are Muslims. Not all of them belong to certain religious groups. So allow them to make the choices. I really find it difficult to understand why you think that if an adult makes a choice and has weighed the consequences and say that this is what I want to do, and they want to do it, and you have an issue with it, and it's something that you're fighting and making it look as if then that's the end of the world. These are not mad people. Let's set the ground and know that these are not mad people. What they do is not going to have any serious consequences for society, because there's HIV/AIDS in the heterosexual community already. We actually have a number of HIV/AIDS cases coming from heterosexuals and not homosexuals. So we should stop making it look as if that if these people are accepted, and we are going to have like plummeting HIV/AIDS cases running about, like the virus roaming about in town. Anywhere you go, it touches you and it kind of thing. Let's interrogate, let them understand them, let them respect the fact they've made certain choices, and be ready to help them live in the kind of communities that they want to be with laws, with medical provisions, as we have just done for the heterosexual community. And I think we will be good to go.
Right. Thank you so much. And again, I do want to reiterate or re-emphasize, right, in terms of Amanda's word choice here in terms of choice, it doesn't necessarily translate to LGBT people making choices about what they want to do with their own identity per se. So I hope that people don't misunderstand your use of choice to assume that LGBT people are just making choices about what they who they are. But actually, from what we heard from Angel earlier, it's what you feel. There isn't nobody really trained you to be straight. I mean, people necessarily sometimes train you to be straight, I guess. And this is what people. This is the attraction they feel. And you just cannot necessarily have any scientific evidence to prove that this is right, necessarily wrong. And again, we're not talking about behaviors that harm other people, like pedophilia. So I'm not even going to go into that kind of conversation. But thank you so much, Angel. Thank you so much, Robert, for being, even though I know you had some
Can
internet.
I say one thing?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know how far this message can go, but I think human rights should be included in the syllabus. In the school syllabus, so that the human rights will be taught in schools, because we have parents who don't even know their rights, and their children will come back from school and teach them their rights. You don't have the right to insult anybody. You don't have the right to discriminate. You don't have the right to do this, that. Since the adults are not ready to learn, since they have the old-fashioned archaic mind, yes, they should um it should be introduced in the syllabus in the schools so that it can be taught, so that the child can have the fundamentals. When they are growing, they will know their left and their right. They will know what is good, what is right. They will not be cheated. Nobody can come and sit on the TV and lie to them, and they will believe it because they already know their rights already. So that is the little thing I would want to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angel. So thanks so much for everybody else, those who joined us today. It's been a lively conversation. I really appreciate you taking about 2 hours to join us, engage in this fantastic conversation on the politics of LGBT rights in Ghana. So next 2 weeks, we will have another topic. Hopefully you will join us in 2 weeks. Look out for more information on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and then also on our Instagram. All right. Well, have a great evening for those in Ghana. Have a great afternoon for those of us in the US, and enjoy your week.
Thank you.
Hi.